Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us virtually via Zoom for this interview for the C19 Experience. You all are very important people in Rodney's life, and you were a part of this journey that he had with COVID-19. And I want to hear about how all of this affected your life. But first, before we get into all of that, I would love to hear all of your names. If you could just introduce yourself and then let everyone know how you are in relationship with Rodney. So if we can start with Bill.
Hey, I'm Bill Simmons. I've literally known Rodney all my life. He's my first cousin. We're only 6 months apart in age. I call him old man because he's 6 months older than me. But we are also on both of our mother's side of the family. We're the youngest cousins, so we're the babies of the family. And like I said, literally knowing him my entire life, when we were little bitty babies, we did everything together, growing up together at grandma's house together. I'm spending the night over his house all the time, and then as we got older, he really started doing the music thing first, but really influenced me because I wanted to be like Cuz. So we more like, Rodney always says that we're more like brothers than cousins.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Let's do Tommy next.
I am Tommy Henderson, and Rodney and I, we go back day one of my life, actually. I often say and tell people that on Facebook, you can find a picture of me, Rodney, my father, and my sister, Lolita. And there's one candle on my birthday cake. That's how far back Rodney and we go, back that far. Which actually, being next door neighbors, actually put us next door. So I heard and everything, every part of growth in Rodney's music career, I heard that because I was right next door.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. But it was always the better.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Sid.
I'm Sid Uncle Jams Johnson. I've known Rodney since high school days. He was my arch nemesis in high school. I hated his guts because he used to give me holy heck, I want to say another word, in high school. But somehow or another, because of music, we developed a rapport because I used to host the after-school talent shows, and he always had some of the greatest musicians, whether it was the Diplomats or Jazzy Cazzy and the Eight Sounds. And I was his first manager. And boy, it's an amazing journey. I was so glad when he left Short Ridge and went to Addicts, where he should have been the whole time. Then we went out on the road with the, in quotation marks, stylistics. And that in and of itself is an experience. So I've known this guy for 15 years, since our young teen days.
All right. So we have some long histories here. We have some very long histories. I love it. Okay. So how did Rodney's journey with COVID affect you in your life? Anyone who wants to go first?
I'll go ahead. When I got the call, it was from another cousin of ours, Daryl Armstead, and he called and said Rodney's in the hospital in intensive care. He and Sheena both have COVID. And I mean, it just like scared me because my first thought is like, I can't lose my cousin.
Right.
And I was devastated, and we do.
And this was at the very beginning, right? We didn't know very much, and people were just dying rapidly.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I first get on the phone and start talking to all, my brothers and sisters and all the cousins, and and we talk, and we weren't hearing anything because it was probably a couple of days before I was actually able to talk to Sheena. And then the way they were keeping COVID patients and their spouses separated and everything, she didn't have much information. So it was that initial feeling I had. The only thing I could say was fear. You know, you got a loved one in the hospital in intensive care. You can't really get any answers on anything. It's just scary, you know. Then when we did get more information, he had just before he slipped into a coma. It just, the information we got was it wasn't looking good for him. Then he slipped into the coma. And, I don't know. I just was on my knees praying constantly. Yeah. And fear is the biggest emotion I can tell you. I was just afraid for his life. I was afraid for Sheena. What will she do if her partner in crime is gone? and I don't know. That's the best way I can put it. Was scared.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very frightening time. Tommy or Sid, do you want to add on to that at all?
Well,
Tommy?
I'll go. Okay. When I first heard about it, Sid was the one who let me know that Rodney was going to the hospital. And I didn't, because he, wasn't feeling well. And I really didn't, how you don't think something that close to you is going to happen there. That's where I was. And then so I find out how bad it is. And then after talking to Sheena, we talked to Sheena, and she started describing exactly, what went on, how he was moping around and he didn't want to get up out of the bed and he didn't want to do this. And that's not Rodney. That's not the Rodney, that we know. Yeah. Because I couldn't visualize him not wanting to get out of the bed, saying, no, I'm not getting up. And, just being dormant for so long. And it, as the days went on, I started realizing just it's hitting home, and it's definitely hitting home. And you expect if you hear some news on a Tuesday, you want to hear on Wednesday, okay, well, no, a good turn. Yeah. And it wasn't happening. Yeah. And that was hard. That was so hard to deal with. So hard to deal with.
I really can't remember exactly who told me, because the grapevine in the entertainment business can be quite a challenging thing. But I do know that Tommy was probably one of the first persons I reached out to because it was such a shock. And once we realized that Sheena had it, but she had been discharged and came home, and Tommy and I were in constant contact with Sheena, I think pretty much daily. And as things progressed and we realized how grave the situation was, it was really frightening. And Sheena had designated me to be the point person to let the public know what could be known through her approval. Then we had some people that were saying things that they shouldn't have been saying. And it was really scary. And I remember when she was at the point of ready to make funeral arrangements, because that's what she had been told by the powers that be at the hospital, that he wasn't going to make it. And I remember that night very well. Christina and Tommy and myself were on the phone, and they were telling her you can only have 10 people at a service. And she was like naming off people. She said, how can that work? And I remember Tommy, he was like no good. I mean, at that point, I was the only person that was statuesque enough to hold up he and Sheena on the phone, because they were just like, they were done. It was just really, it was unbelievable because Rodney has always been a pillar of strength. He's always been the bulldog, the aggressive alpha male type. To recognize that he was silenced, no ability to talk. He's been put on a ventilator and all of this kind of thing. I'm thinking, nah, it can't be like this. This is not how Rodney Allen Stepp is going to go out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. So this experience of witnessing Rodney go through this and going on this journey with him, you all were really there with him on this journey spiritually, because no one could be there physically, and carrying this around with you every day. And unfortunately, this virus is still here. It's still taking lives and people are still contracting it. Very many people on a daily basis. And so after going through this experience with him, someone who is so dear to all of you, how has that affected the way that you move throughout the world, through this COVID world?
Oh, it definitely, if you're smart, I'll put it that way. If you're smart and have some intelligence, it definitely makes you move in a certain way. Because you know it's real. You know this is happening because it happened right here next to me.
Yeah.
You know, I've actually lost 4 friends during this.
Sorry.
And, you know, like I said, thank you. And like I said, you know, Rodney, I was definitely didn't want him to be the 5th, you know. But I'm always, you know, where I am, who I'm around, mask up all the time, mask up definitely. No matter how somebody looks at you, no matter what, you know, no matter what conversation you might say, I stand up for masking. I stand up for doing the right thing, you know, whether it be popular or not. I don't care. You want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. You want to hash it out, we'll hash it out. You want to whip it out, we'll whip it out. You know, it doesn't matter to me, you know, because the truth is the light. And definitely rolling with Rodney, I saw the light for sure, because it, and I mean, I tell that story to this day about almost losing my best friend, my next door neighbor. He was almost gone. I always tell people, you can see pictures of him, you figure he's gone, but no, he bounced back, and it's a struggle, but he's still, you know, piecing his health together.
Yeah. And I think that's something really important. And I want to hear both Bill and Sid, your answers too. But I think that's something really important to just mention, is that, you know, we are so blessed that Rodney is still here, but he is not finished with this.
Right.
Like, it is still a part of his life and something that he's still working with. And so that's why those precautions that you were talking about, Tommy, are so important, because those things are still, a lot of the people who have survived it are still dealing with other health things, all sorts of things because of their time with COVID.
Yeah.
How about you, Bill? How are you walking around the world now?
Well, like Tommy said, you take every precaution. You know, I mask up. I got vaccinated as soon as I possibly could, and don't hesitate to tell someone that I got the vaccine. You know, and Rodney has set an example, because he's outspoken and witnessing his everything that he went through, you know, nearly dying, the miraculous recovery, how prayer really works, all those things and I'm right there to bear witness to it as well. So knowing someone as close as I know Rodney, who went through that experience, I'm able to tell other people. And if you have the naysayers and doubters out there, or COVID isn't real, or it's not that bad, and say, no, let me tell you this from my first cousin's experience, the guy I nearly lost. And if it hadn't been for the power of prayer and the hope of the doctors, he wouldn't be here, because COVID is serious. And then we all know, and I tell people that I run into as well, okay, God saved him, but he's still got battles to fight because he's got like health problems that COVID caused.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this thing is very, very real. And and having someone really close to you. I have other people that I know that have been sick with COVID, and a few that passed away, but no one as close to me as Rodney. So it really affected me, and I really as I walk through it and take my own precautions. When I see people who are not taking precautions, I'm quick to let them know how serious it is.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Tommy and Bill have said. I have been reluctant to go to concerts, to the theater. I even go to the grocery store. And even when I go out and take exercise walks, I wear a mask. People say, well, you have to wear a mask outside. And you may not wear one outside, but I don't know who's going to pass me and whether they're vaccinated or what they have. So masks, I have tons of them, and I have all kinds. And it's mask, wash the hands, and definitely practice as much social distancing as I can. And it's made me very gun shy to participate in any large scale events like the group that Bill was in, Midnight Star. I'm close to those guys, and one of their members is a good friend of mine. And he tried to get me to come to their first gig when they came back from being off, 18 months or whatever, when they played in Akron, Ohio. I said, no, I'm not doing concerts, not right now. And I've known Bill ever since I was in junior high school. He lived on 35th Street, and I lived on, no, the other way around. I lived on 35th, 36th. You were on 35th Street, right?
Yeah, I was on 34th.
And I was on 36th. And I've known Bill forever. We went to the same high school. And I love me some Midnight Star, but I also love some staying safe and healthy. I've had some health issues of my own. So therefore, I did not want to be in a situation, because many of the people in our race, they have been influenced by the colonizers where they don't think this is serious. So they don't want to wear a mask, and they don't want to get the vaccine. So all the time saying, are they paying you to be an advocate for the vaccine? I'm like, no, I just have good common sense. I recognize that there's no cure for the coronavirus, and I recognize what a vaccine is about. A vaccine is there to try to help you not have the most adverse symptoms of the virus. And it's like wearing a seatbelt. You can still get messed up a bit in a car accident if you have a seatbelt on. But if you don't have one on, the consequences can be far more grave. So I wear my seatbelt, I'm vaccinated. And as soon as the booster is available for me, I'm taking it, because I constantly am reminded of COVID because of what Rodney went through. Because I've had some more distant family members pass from it, and some acquaintances, nobody really close has passed from it. But Rodney would be the person that I've known the best that had the most severe case. Because at one point, he was the sickest patient with COVID in the state of Indiana. It's just really amazing where he's come from, but he still has a ways to go.
Absolutely. Because we all have been touched personally. Sometimes, unfortunately, for folks, if they're not touched personally by something like this, they don't see the gravity of it. And so it's almost like up to us as the people who are close to people who have been affected, especially at the level that Rodney was, to make sure that we go out and we act as a ripple, as the effect of COVID and what happened with Rodney is kind of like the the rock in the pond, right? And we are the ripples who are spreading the word about how to make sure that they stay safe and that this situation doesn't happen to them. Because now we know, right? But at that point, we didn't really know so much, but now we know things. So, Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you should do better, right?
That's right.
So you all are now officially a part of the C19 experience. That is so awesome. And I'm sure you've heard so much about the C19 experience. So I would like to know, what do you hope, or what are your hopes about the impact of this movement on the public? Sid, what do you think? Or what are your hopes that the public will be able to take away from witnessing this movement?
I remain hopeful that my people can break the cycle of misinformation and bad intel from damaged people and wake up and recognize it's serious. I hear stories that all of the presidents and congresspeople and VIPs that have taken the vaccine, they all get a different dose that regular people get. And I just want everybody to recognize this is serious. And the only way that we're going to be able to function with some level of what people would call normal, because the way it was is a done deal. But this is the way it is. And in order for us to deal in the way it is, we have to have herd immunity. And without herd immunity, we're in trouble, because even those of us that are vaccinated, we can still get it. So I'm just hopeful that people will wake up. That's the one thing that I want people to do, is to wake up. Because I'm seeing a lot of the naysayers that are being hospitalized, like these conservative talk show hosts and some of these ministers that say they're covered by the blood of Jesus and they don't need a vaccine, they're dying. And I'm hoping that when those kind of things occur, that it will make those kinds of people say, this is real. Because I know it's real. That gentleman up there in the upper left-hand corner on my computer screen, he's a living and walking testament that it's real.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hey, Tommy, what would you hope that the impact of the C19 experience will be?
I'm hoping pretty much the same thing that Sid is hoping, that people will kind of wake up, with everything coming at them. C19, Vaccination Nation. I hum that and sing that all the time because it's so catchy, and somebody talks about it and I say, oh yeah, friends of mine, they did a little jingle for the Vaccination Nation. And I just hope that people just wake up, because it is real. It's the same thing, the same people, if they were looking at a horror movie or some kind of sci-fi movie at the theater, they would say, don't go in there. Oh, you better do this. Oh, don't do that. Oh, why are you doing that? Those same people, here it is in real life happening to them. And they're acting like it's not here and it's not happening. Because it really is. It's the same mindset. Mm-hmm. They don't realize there's this virus that is trying to take over, is trying to live. And while it's trying to live, it is killing off humans left and right. Yeah. And if that were a movie, they'd be saying, oh, why don't those idiots just get a shot? And why don't they just do that? That's what they would be doing.
In the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
If it were a sci-fi movie or,
right.
or, something like that. But yeah, I just hope that, people just wake up, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, as we see, you need to be beat over the head with it. Yeah. That's why Rodney created the C19 Experience, because
which is a gentle, loving beating over the head, right?
Yeah. It is. It's gentle and loving, but It's a beat. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, hey.
Wake up.
Don't let Tommy fool you. He means for it to be an aggressive alpha male beat. Okay? There's nothing gentle about his approach.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bill, I would love to hear what you hope the impact of the C19 experience will be.
Well, what I really hope for with the C19 experience, because there's so much misinformation out there, and I know every aspect of the C19 experience is going to tell the absolute truth, that all the naysayers can listen and hear these truths. You know, you've got a man in Rodney Stepp who got deathly ill from this horrible disease, and he's witnessing it through song, through testimony, and you're going to have a documentary that's also going to interview the doctors and nurses and caregivers that were there taking care of him and taking care of other COVID patients. You're going to get firsthand truth and real knowledge of how devastating COVID-19 can be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, you know, for Rodney Stepp, the Lord said, no, not him. But that doesn't happen for everybody, you know. So you may not be the one who gets saved. You may be the one that just goes. So like I'm really hopeful that the C19 experience, and I've talked to Rodney a lot about this, and I know that's what his mission is. He wanted to get his story out there to help others. Mm-hmm. And I'm just hopeful that the project does exactly what it's intended to do. I think it's being packaged in a way that it will reach people, because you will have the celebratory music that can reach people, and you're going to have great information coming from legitimate sources that can reach people. So I really believe in the project. I think it's going to be a great impact on our society.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything to say or thoughts that came up that I may not have touched on to finish things up?
Well, this has nothing to do with the C19 experience. I wonder if Tommy remembers, we were about 4 years old, and me and Rodney were throwing snowballs across the yards at you and Lolita. Uh-huh. It's going way back. I just wondered if you remember that.
Yes, you are going way back. I vaguely remember. I vaguely do remember, but we just always had so much fun.
Right.
Everything kind of meshes together especially from back then.
Yeah.
60 years ago.
Right. Exactly. So I mean,
there was no desire on the part of the Grim Reaper to take Rodney out of here, because we survived a plane crash in a cornfield in Iowa, I think it was, when we were out on tour with the Stylistics. And we were on a private plane, and it crashed in a cornfield. And we were rescued by some farmers that I'm sure were not used to seeing Black people, especially in their cornfield. And and then we also were assaulted in Louisville, Kentucky on that same tour. Our lives were in danger. So we've been through some things. We also one time were stopped on the highway by a bunch of police that made us get out, take equipment out of the trailer or the truck or what have you, to search for drugs at gunpoint. So we've been through some things. Rodney, I'm tired of you. You know, really. Through some stuff.
It's not my fault, dog.
Rodney is a survivor.
Yes.
So it's like, it's one of those things where if you want to survive, hang with Rodney. Just hang with Rodney and you want to survive.
Some good advice. Thank you, Tommy. I've heard a lot of road stories, but I haven't heard those. I'm gonna need to hear those. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to share your stories and share your insights and your hope for the impact of this wonderful experience, the C19 experience. And we love that you're a part of it and that you shared. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rashida.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us, Rashida. And I know we're all happy to take part in this.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
And I want to say thank you, guys. Rashida, I need you to hold on for a minute. I'm going to see what's going on with Papa D here. But we definitely, I know Sid's got an interview. What time is your interview, Sid?
It's going on. I've got different units going here, so I'm multitasking. I have three things on top of each other tonight.
Are you hosting?
But you were important. So I'm going to leave. Bill, good luck tomorrow when you guys go out to hot Arizona.
Yeah, no.
And everything. Thanks for being flexible, everybody, because Bill had to be. Bill had to fly out.
Rodney, peace. See you guys.
Okay. Cool. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right, Papa D.
Yes, my name is Eric Durrett. They call me Papa D. I've known Rodney maybe 30 years or so. Like I'm the baby of the bunch. They all grew up together, and I came along later. Rodney, I went to the same high school as Rodney and Tommy, but I was after them. And so they were already legends when I got there. Mm-hmm. And I was in my own band, but we knew that Rodney Stepp, the great Rodney Stepp, was with the Spinners, and Rodney Voorhees was with the Spinners. So those of us who had our own bands, that's who we aspired.
He's muted.
And Tommy was part of, I knew Tommy and Sid from when they dealt with Manchild, because I was on the entertainment committee for the Indiana Black Expo Soul Picnic back then. And Manchild used to play that every once in a while, back when Babyface was still Kenny. And Sid was their manager, and Tommy was around, and I was that kid that was running around being part of the entertainment committee, organizing stuff for the show wagon, the Parks Department show wagon. Mm-hmm. And I started doing that when I was 12. So, I was always around those guys, but I wasn't part of their clique at that time because I was just quite frankly too young. As we get older, those years, even though it was 5 or 6 years, it doesn't make that much different. But when you're 12 and they're 17, they're like, "Who is this kid running around? He's in the way." So, but they were always very, very nice. By that time, a couple years later, like I said, we had our own band and we were playing. But it was, I've known all of them in some shape, form, or fashion. Let's see, I'm 61, so probably 50 years, but they've known each other on a more close level for, like they say, 60 years, because they're a little bit older than me. And then about 30 years ago, I really got to meet Rodney and deal with him on a different type of level after he came off the road from the Spinners. And I started being production manager for the local concerts here, R&B concerts here through Expo. And he opened up a couple shows that I was producing for Alex Bouillon and a couple other shows that he opened up for. So that's when we started to get to know each other, and we formed a close friendship, a close bond, and it's been the same ever since. It's gotten even greater here the past 10 years or so, but yeah, I've known them a long time too.
All right. So how did Rodneys' experience with COVID-19 affect you?
I'm gonna come at that a little different than the rest because I have kind of a medical background. I used to be an EMT on the fire department. I was a respiratory therapist at Raleigh Hospital as well.
Wow.
So I don't know if they told the story. We did a benefit for a church so they could put a roof on their church. And a couple people there were infected. This was very early in the pandemic. This was before it was a pandemic, actually. And they took everybody's name and number. And after they found out that a couple of people had been infected, and then they would go call us to let us know if something went wrong. And a few days later, they had called everybody else. And Rodney had called and asked me if I wanted to go to a birthday party. I said, no, I don't think I'm going to go. See, because when they first started talking about the pandemic, I started going to get masks then. You know, I got my mask from Sherwin-Williams paint stores. The N95, I still got about 30 of them. I was doing this in January and February of last year before it even got bad, because I knew medical-wise that this is probably going to be really bad. And then he got sick, real sick, a few days later. And Sheena called me. She said, Rodney's going to the hospital. And so I went out there to make sure she was okay. The next day, after he had been in the hospital a few days, I had a funeral to go to up in their part of the city. I said, let me call Sheena and see if she needs anything. I called her. She sounded like she was out of breath. I said, what's the matter? She said, I'm getting ready to go to the hospital. I said, what's wrong? She said, I don't know. I said, hold on, I'm on my way. So I actually took Sheena to the hospital when she was diagnosed with COVID. And I had to let her out. They wouldn't let me come in because they weren't letting other people come into the hospital. So I took her to the hospital, and then it turned out that she was in the same room that he had been in before they moved him to ICU.
Wow.
Wow.
So it because they are so close to me, they're like my brother and sister, my best friends now. It really hit me hard. But the thing about it, because I do have that medical background, when they put him on the vent, and I knew most people, if they didn't come off, they were coming off the vent in 5 or 6 days, but that's because they were dead. And when Rodney kept staying on the vent, I said, he's gonna beat this. That was just my personal feel. I said, and then he was on the vent for 2 weeks. I said, he's gonna beat it, because if he was going to not be here, it had taken him out a week before.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, he's stronger, or strong enough that he can fight this off, and the vent's helping him fight it off. Because if he wasn't, all those people, there were a lot of people on the vent. They was only on the vent for 2 or 3 days, and then they was gone. Mm-hmm. So the longer he was on the vent, I had a little bit more faith that he was going to pull through. And then they took him off. I said, okay, see this, because he's different. He's bullheaded.
and it's paying off.
He wants to be around so he can have me hold his phone during concerts.
Wow, that is such a great perspective, because us lay folks without the medical background, we didn't know that. We were having a very different experience. So that's very cool to know that was some good that was happening, even though we weren't sure.
I was still scared now. I was still scared.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
But the physiology of how the body works and what the machine's supposed to do, I knew how all that interacts. Because when I used to be, like I said, respiratory therapist, and that was at Raleigh Hospital. So I dealt with newborns in ICU. And that is heart-wrenching in and of itself. Yeah. But it still doesn't prepare you for when somebody close to you is going through it. I mean, when it first started, people were still having parties and get-togethers. The Post up down there on Michigan, well, Dr. Martin Luther King, they had an event, and like 50 people got sick, and like half of them died. And, people weren't taking it serious. I'm like, you better understand what's going on. This is not the common flu.
Right. So since you were such a close part of this experience and Rodney's journey with COVID, how has his journey and witnessing his journey firsthand, how has that affected the way that you move and make decisions in this world where COVID is still doing its thing?
First off, you know, I'm an early riser if I go to bed at all, and I'm an MSNBC watcher, right? So I would every morning they're giving a rundown of how many people had tested positive and how many people had died. So, you know, you got that running commentary. I also like to know what the other side is thinking. So I flip over to Fox and listen to those idiots, excuse me, and the bloviating astronomical nonsense that they were putting out. It just blew my mind. I'm like, how can anybody that has half a brain believe what they're saying, especially when they got somebody that they love dying? Some of them were on their deathbed still denying that this is what was killing them. I'm like, you yourself are dying and you still, but I think all that is, you know, part of it is they don't want the government telling them what to do. You know, that I'm a sovereign citizen type deal, which is stupid. If the government tells you got to have a driver's license, you don't have a problem going to get that. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Mm-hmm. You don't have a problem with that. But then as soon as they say no mask, oh my God, you're telling me what I have to do. Mm-hmm. They got a problem. They don't have a problem if a bakery doesn't want to bake a cake for a gay couple. But the same bakery said, well, you can't come in if you don't have a mask on. They're like, oh my God, you're taking my rights away. Mm-hmm. So the rights are only for them. For everybody else, it don't matter. I got the vaccine as soon as it was available. Probably, I think I got mine in March. And I think it came out that month or February. I got mine in March. And I'm going to get the booster as soon as I'm available to do it. I still wear a mask because you don't know who, you know, people walking around without masks. You don't know who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, especially in Indiana. You don't know who's who. So it's better to be safe than sorry. Mm-hmm. And because my rights end when they start to affect you.
Yeah.
And that's what upsets me because I was feeling under the weather here this past weekend. I had a little drainage and cough and stuff. So I went and got tested again. I came back negative. That's the 4th time I've been tested in a year because I've been around other people and I wanted to make sure that I hadn't contracted it. I have 14 grandkids, 15 on the way. And I don't want to be around them and risk getting them sick because more than half of them are under 12. So they can't get the vaccine. I'm not trying to get my baby sick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a big responsibility too, we have to think about not just ourselves and our own comfort, but also our loved ones and the people that we're around for sure. Exactly. So you are a big part of this C19 experience. So I would love to know, what is your hope? What do you hope comes from the impact of the C19 experience?
Well, I heard Tommy and Sid and Bill, and I echo those sentiments. I'm just not as optimistic as they are. Some people you could beat over the head and they're going to disagree with you because they just want to play devil's advocate. Or they just don't want. You ever heard people say, I want to know the truth? You know, tell me the truth. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's not actually what they want. They want me to confirm what they already believe to be true. No matter what I tell them, if it doesn't match up to what they already believe, I'm lying to them. I could tell them, you know, all day long, show them statistics, give them personal stories probably within their own family. They just don't want to get it. I hope that Tommy and Bill and Sid are right. I hope it opens up people's eyes. I really do. Just this part of me that says, you know, human nature. and since it's been politicized, I believe if it hadn't been politicized, we would have been okay. Because the very people who were talking about, I'm not going to get the vaccine, they got that mark in their arm from when they got the vaccine when they were little kids. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, roll up your sleeve, let me see if you got that mark. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them do. Mm-hmm. But because a certain president said, oh, no, I'm not, they didn't get it. But guess what? He got it. Mm-hmm. He didn't publicize it, but he got it. And then he got sick, and then he got it. And he got the best medication, the best medical help in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But then he gets out and still says, see, I'm Superman. Nobody. No. But that's what makes me have less hope than my brothers that some people are going to listen. But I hope they do. I really hope they do.
And even if it's just one, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's just one person who's like, well, maybe I'll wear a mask, or maybe I'll get the vaccine, then then it's all worth it, right? Because that one life saved ripples out.
It's like that parable, the tide washes up 1,000 starfish up on the beach, right? And there's a little boy, and he's picking up the starfish and throwing them back in the ocean. And there's thousands and thousands on the beach. And the old man comes along and says, what are you doing? He says, I'm trying to get these starfish back into the water. He says, well, there's too many of you, not going to make any difference. He said, you know what? I made a difference to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the C19 experience can be that one, be the little boy on the beach.
Yeah. Throwing them starfish in one at a time. One at a time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories and being a part of this C19 experience.
Well, thank you. You have such a pretty smile. Such a pretty smile.
Thank you so much.
I told you, it's that magic.
Is that magic?
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody, Papa D got a chance to see it too. And thanks, Papa D. Thanks for being here. The video, I think y'all gonna love it. It's Rashida. I'm gonna send it to you so you and Bonds can see it.
Okay.
But we're not done with it. But so that's just for y'all right now.
Okay. We won't share. We're waiting till the premiere of the documentary.
Yeah, the big premiere.
You still haven't sent it to me yet, man. I'm waiting.
Oh, well, Steve said he was going to, you asked Steve. And so Steve, I heard him tell you on Saturday. Yeah,
but he hasn't sent it. And today, he's having a real hard day. So
I know. Okay, well, I'll send it to you too.
Thank you.
But I sent it to Rashida.
And you know what everybody needs to do?
What's that?
What?
Everybody needs to join the vaccination nation. It can save your life.
Yes, we
join the vaccination nation. It can save your life.
I'm the mayor. I'm the mayor of the vaccination nation.
Tommy, I'm gonna make sure that is in the documentary.
We will run the commercial for you, Tommy. We'll run both of them.
Join the vaccination nation. Vaccination nation. It could save your life. Yes, it could, yeah. Join the vaccination nation. Vaccination nation. It could save your life.
We're men in the fire. Don't be afraid to get the vaccine. Take it from us. Get the shot. Join the vaccination nation today.
Join the vaccination nation. It could save your life.